I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. All right. So, welcome everybody. This is going to be a hackathon quick start. The emphasis in this video is going to be on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain, and also most of these resources are geared towards JavaScript developers. If you're not a JavaScript developer, you can still use our REST API for accessing the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. So what I'm going to do in this video is just give some really quick code examples and advice on how to get started quickly. In these hackathons, time is of the essence, and so my goal today is to give you the resources to very quickly get up to speed on the blockchain, on tokens, on how to integrate some of this code into your own app, and just get started as quickly as possible. So right now I'm going to encourage everyone to hit the print screen button on your computer. Try and take a copy of this QR code. I'm going to be speaking from these notes. It's a gist on GitHub. And so this QR code will give you the link of this. And so if we post the video later, people watching this can scan the QR code. I'll show this again later. So let me dive into these notes. So that QR code will lead you to this page on it's a gist on GitHub. And so what I wanted to cover today is quick start for the hackathon developers to quickly implement BCH and infrastructure into their hackathon project. One of the things that I'll touch on is this geodrop.cash. This won a previous hackathon using a lot of the tips and code examples here. It was a video game. It's based on, it's sort of like Pokemon Go, where a coffee shop can drop like free coffee tokens around their town, and then players can retrieve the token. It's based on geolocation like Pokemon Go, and then return to the coffee shop to claim their free coffee. That's basically the canonical use case. So a lot of the code I'm going to share today is what we used to win that hackathon a few months ago. So to get started, there are these, let me just move this, hopefully that doesn't go, okay. So yeah, to get started, sorry, just messing with my screen here. Oh, shoot. There we go, okay. Educational resources are really important. If you don't have an understanding of the fundamental architecture of how a blockchain works, then you need to start there, because no matter how much code examples you have, they're not going to help if you don't understand what's happening under the hood. And so Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. It's a great place to start, even if your project's based on Ethereum. And so I have a link here to Andreas Antonopoulos' Mastering Bitcoin. This is considered like the de facto reference. It'll explain how Bitcoin works. He also has another book on Ethereum and then another book on Lightning Network, and they're all on GitHub. So if you're very new to blockchains in general, this is the best place to start, is Mastering Bitcoin. And then there's a revision of this one, of that book, specifically for Bitcoin Cash, to talk about some of the slight differences between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And then finally, there's this link to the documentation page on fullstack.cash. So let me just go. So this is the Mastering Bitcoin book by Andreas Antonopoulos. It's broken up into chapters. And the first half of the book is incredibly important, particularly keys and addresses, wallets, and transactions. Those are what I would consider the fundamentals. They apply to every blockchain, and as a developer, you should probably start there. And then again, there's this Mastering Bitcoin Cash book, which covers a lot of the same material, has a few minor tweaks to represent the Bitcoin Cash side of things. And then briefly I'll show the documentation page on fullstack.cash. There's a link to that Mastering Bitcoin Cash book here. If you scroll down, there's also links to tutorial.cash, which are video tutorials, and the slp.dev, which is specifically for Simple Ledger Protocol tokens on the Bitcoin Cash. So these are some other excellent educational resources. This page also has links to the BCH.js JavaScript library that fullstack.cache offers, and the BCH API REST API. So if you want an API documentation to reference as you're coding, this is where you should go. This is where you'll find that API documentation. There is also this JOT.bch library that I'll talk to in a minute. That's for getting increased rate limits to the REST API. So that's the best place to go for education and fundamentals. Most of the projects, if not all of them, are going to have a front-end component. And so whether that's a phone app or a web app, you're going to have some sort of user interface for users to interact with. So we have this page, front-end resources on fullstack.cache. If you go to the main fullstack.cache webpage, scroll down to the middle, there will be a link to the front end. This is what you'll see. Right here at the top is a video on how to fork wallet.fullstack.cache. And actually, I should just show that. Wallet.fullstack.cache is a very simple web wallet. It lets you create a wallet, and it automatically hides the private information, the private key, and the mnemonic. But it gives you everything that you'll need. When you bring it up for the first time, it'll automatically navigate you here, and you'll see a button that says Create Wallet. It lets you, if you go to the Send and Receive tab, it'll give you a Bitcoin Cash address, and you can click on the tab to get a simple ledger address, so that's for tokens in Bitcoin Cash. Lets you send Bitcoin Cash, and then there's a token section, and so if you receive any SLP tokens, this is where they'll appear. And so that's about it. That's the entire wallet. It's very simple. And so this video in the fullstack.cache front end section will walk you through step by step on how to fork that app and create your own web wallet, so that you can start from square one with a functional web wallet that can send and receive Bitcoin Cash and tokens. There's also a lot of other good front-end information on this page, lots of other example web apps, as well as a link to geodrop.cache, the game that won the hackathon a few months ago, which again started as a simple fork of wallet.fullstack.cache. Let's see. Yeah, and then I also have a link here to the presentation video that we gave at that hackathon that won, that geodrop.cache won, so you can get a sense of what a good high-quality presentation video looks like. Some of these other examples, again, so what I've covered so far is how to get the fundamentals, and second, how to get started and quickly fork and get a working front-end web wallet. And now for everything that's not a front end, or including the front end, like the actual code, how do you get started very quickly? How do you quickly create a wallet, create tokens, send and receive tokens, start working with tokens? That's right here, this BCH.js examples repository. Let me see, I think I've got that in here. Yeah, BCH.js examples. Most of this code is going to be found on GitHub under the Permissionless Software Foundation GitHub group. So this is the BCH.js examples repository. I've got a lot of links here that are already in the notes, including links to what I've already talked about. But right here, if you scroll down the bottom, you can get started very quickly by just focusing on these top three examples. Create a wallet, check the balance of the wallet, and send some BCH. But if you click in here, in fact, let me go back to the root directory, and I'll help you navigate. There's a directory structure here. So eCache is a separate blockchain. If you're working on that, that's great, but most people are going to focus on the BCH stuff. There's also a little bit of IPFS stuff. There's methods in BCH.js for uploading a file to IPFS and then retrieving it. But I'm going to focus on this BCH directory. There's these low-level applications that help you work with opereturns. So opereturn is a way to include a little bit of text in with a Bitcoin Cash transaction. And so that's a very common use case. So if you just want a very simple low-level example of how to read and write opereturn transactions, this is a great place to go. Also, UTXOs, unspent transaction outputs, those are a fundamental idea in Bitcoin. And if you don't know what that is, go to the Mastering Bitcoin book and read about UTXOs. That's a very fundamental idea. You need to understand what that is in order to understand everything else about the blockchain. So make sure to read about that. If you go into this applications directory, there is this wallet directory that has a bunch of, these are like Lego blocks. These are very simple building blocks for building a custom application on Bitcoin Cash. So there's examples for creating a wallet, checking your balance, consolidating UTXOs, generating a private key from your wallet, send everything in the wallet to another address, send BCH, send Dust. Dust is a 547 Satoshis. It's the smallest amount of Bitcoin that can be sent. So just really handy, very small bite-sized Lego blocks there. And in the SLP directory, this is SLP tokens. So this is all about working with tokens. Again, there's these little Lego block examples of create a token and burn tokens, send tokens, mint tokens. So there's this concept of a baton, and that you use the minting baton to bring new tokens into existence, or you burn the minting baton in order to sort of publicly prove that the amount of tokens is capped and finite and you can't make any more. So these are all really good. And then if people want to explore NFTs, there's this NFT subdirectory. We do have NFTs on Bitcoin Cash. And there's a bit of a concept here. There's a YouTube video I created to explain the concept of NFTs and how they differ from NFTs on Ethereum and other EVM-based blockchains. But just real quick, at a high level, there's essentially two types of tokens. There's the NFT group, which can be thought of as like a stem cell. It's like a cell that hasn't really specialized into a specific type of cell, like bone or skin cell. This is kind of a similar thing where you use a group token and you burn it to then generate the actual NFTs. And this is a really neat idea, because what you can do is create like a sword NFT, and then you create the Green Dragon sword or Excalibur, or like specific unique swords, all from this category of sword group tokens. And that's really handy when you're talking about like video games and types of NFTs that need to be categorized. This is a feature that Bitcoin Cash NFTs have that I don't think Ethereum really has. Maybe they do now with the 1155 standard. But anyways, if you're interested in NFTs, again, this is the video is what you need to know. And these are little Lego blocks on how to create NFTs. And so that's all that. Really, I can't emphasize enough in terms of the hackathon and getting up to speed quickly and getting to code quickly and getting something sort of working quickly. These BCH.js examples are pretty gold. And the second thing that you should check out immediately following that, once you get comfortable with that code, is Minimal Slp Wallet. This is a NPM library that you can drop in, and it's optimized for front end. This is what is actually the sort of wallet engine that runs behind wallet.fullstack.cash. It's a single address wallet, so it's not an HD wallet, and that actually makes things a lot simpler, which is important for a hackathon. So it's much simpler, just work with a single address wallet. And it has just the basic functionality for creating the wallet, sending BCH, showing tokens, sending tokens. All the basic functionality that's in that web wallet is encased in this. So even if you are using Vue instead of React or some other like framework, you can still use this front end library. And even if you're doing a back end project, you can still use this front end library, and it's nice that it can go back and forth between the front end and the back end. And so if you go to this NPM page, you can see simple ways to include it, both front end and back end, using different formats. There's some examples here on how to create a wallet, do all the basic functionality. So whereas those Lego blocks are really great for doing unique things. If you want to do something that's unique, that's not like a standard thing, and by a standard thing I mean just creating a wallet, sending Bitcoin Cash, or sending tokens, that would be a standard thing. If that's all your application needs to do and you're just adding some value on top of that, probably go straight to minimal SLP Wallet. If you need to do some sort of very unique transaction where like maybe you're sending unique op returns in a transaction, that's where the examples are going to come in handy because they're a little more lower level. Next, there's this Slp Cly Wallet. This is also an NPM library, but it's not intended to really be an NPM library. It's actually intended to be cloned from the GitHub repo. And unlike minimal SLP Wallet, so it's a full command line wallet. In fact, I might as well just show real quickly what that looks like. Slp Cly Wallet. So the way this, so by Cly, that stands for command line interface. And the way, after you install it and follow the directions, you can execute it with that bin run command. And like if you go bin run help, it'll list all the commands that you can access. So there's commands in here for creating NFTs. There's commands in here for burning tokens, generating addresses, getting key pairs, all sorts of things. And so it's a really handy, just very quick prototyping tool. And that because there's no graphical user interface, you don't have to like worry about all that baggage. You can just very quickly prototype an idea. And so this is sort of a step up from the BCH.js examples. If you want to go from like one file, like proving a concept, to something that people can interact with a little bit, Slp Cly Wallet's great at that, for just creating a very quick prototype command line application. And this is an HD. This supports HD wallets. So if you want to do anything with like coin joins and privacy, and you're worried, so HD stands for hierarchical deterministic. Again, you can read about that in the Mastering Bitcoin book. So if your project involves anything with like multiple addresses or privacy, you're going to want to read up on HD wallets, and Slp Cly Wallet is going to be the best tool to use for that. And then for the really adventurous, probably shouldn't waste your time on this in a hackathon, but for the really adventurous, I thought I should mention PSF BCH Wallet. This is it's a command line wallet, and it's a single address wallet, but its emphasis is so PSF is the Permissionless Software Foundation. It's a DAO that I helped found, and I'm actually working in. And we're pioneering a new concept using IPFS to take all that backend infrastructure that you'd normally associate with a REST API and pipe it over IPFS, so that the backend as well as the front end can use these sort of censorship resistant techniques, and they're very, very hard to censor. So that's the main focus. A REST API can be censored fairly easily. But again, for a hackathon, you probably just want to go with the REST API and these other tools because they're fast and they're well known, and there's lots of tools around them and documentation around them. This is like cutting edge stuff. And unless your project is specifically around censorship resistance, you probably don't want to waste your time with this. But if you're curious, definitely check it out. And we'd love to have any contestants in this contest join the Permissionless Software Foundation. We're a collective of JavaScript developers who are really concerned with freedom and privacy and economic action and avoiding circumventing censorship. So I've covered educational resources, and I've covered specifically front-end resources to get a front-end user interface up and running quickly, and I've covered some of the more back-end code stuff. There's a ton of stuff I could cover here, but I don't want to distract you. For a hackathon, time's of the essence. You need to learn the architecture, get a user interface up, and then get to coding and leverage as many code examples as you can. But you're going to need some support. And so there's already this wonderful Discord for this hackathon. I suggest going there first. But again, if you're a JavaScript developer and you're building on Bitcoin Cash, I really recommend that you join our Telegram channel, BCH.js Toolkit. There's a link here. And if you start going through these examples and using Slp Cly Wallet, you'll very quickly get these error messages about rate limits, and it'll encourage you to go to fullstack.cash and sign up for an account. And so if you go to fullstack.cash, this is what it looks like. And I probably should have started by introducing the cash stack. It's a pretty important concept, but normally that's what I do. But I just wanted to focus more on the code. But if this first button, front and center, sign up, that'll let you create an account. And if you message me on the Telegram channel, then I will credit your account with $10, which will be enough to get you a JOT token for a month for the hackathon at 100 requests per minute rate limit. So yeah, reach out to me there, and I'm happy to give you a free credit for the hackathon. And if you need higher rate limits, you can talk to me about that as well. So real briefly, before I wrap this up, let me just introduce this concept to the cash stack. This is, I probably should have started with this, and I normally do. But this is, if people are familiar with the OSI stack, which is how you sort of discuss the internet, how the internet works, it breaks the whole internet up into these layers. And the reason the OSI stack was developed was to help engineers and computer scientists sort of scale the internet and discuss, in what layer does a problem lie. And so the cash stack is very similar in that nature, where at the bottom is a full node. You can't, and this model applies to every blockchain, not just Bitcoin Cash. It applies to Bitcoin, applies to Ethereum, applies to Avalanche, applies to every blockchain that exists. And it's essentially, it's a tool that helps you understand conceptually as a developer how to go from the full node to a web app or a phone app. And so at the bottom is the full node. You can't get away from that. That's the fundamental piece of software that every blockchain uses. And at the top is your web app or a phone app. And these layers in between is how you sort of abstract the technology and to scale to consumer use. And so for Bitcoin Cash, the layer above the full node are the indexers. There's Fulcrum, which is an Electrum X protocol indexer, which indexes addresses and UTXOs. And then there's SLPDB, which is an SLP indexer. And then above that is BCH API, our REST API. And it sort of wraps all the layers below it so that all developers only need to know the BCH API reference, and they only need to interact with the API. They don't really need to know the nuts and bolts of the layers below it. And again, if you go to the fullstack.cash/documentation that I showed earlier, that's a link to the API documentation for both BCH API and BCH.js. And then BCH.js is this sort of the layer between the application and the REST API. It has a lot of good features. There's also additional libraries like Minimal Slp Wallet is a JavaScript library that would fit inside of that layer. So this is the basic architecture of how you go from a full node to a web app. And so a lot of what I talked about like fits into this model. But again, I kind of skipped that just so that I could get focus on the code. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If there are questions, this is a great time to ask them. And I'll just leave this QR code up. Again, you should hit this print screen button and take a copy of this so you can refer back to it later. I'll also share this link in the Discord channel, in the general Discord channel. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about what I talked about, go ahead and raise them now. Unmute yourself and ask a question. Otherwise, I'll let you guys get back to the hacking.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris, for that. I was just wondering if, by the way, if anyone else has any questions, just feel free to unmute yourself and just ask away. I guess I'll start off by just asking for those who are new to Bitcoin Cash development, and let's say they need to get some Bitcoin Cash, what would be the best way to do so? Is there like a faucet or a testnet, or like how do they go about with that?
That's a good question. Yeah, you are going to need some Bitcoin Cash, and there are no faucets. Uh, I think CoinEx is probably the easiest exchange to sign up for, particularly if you're an American. I think you can access coinex.com to get Bitcoin Cash. Uh, yeah, that's a good question. This is sort of a common problem with onboarding. I would suggest asking your other hackathon contestants if anybody has like a. You don't need much. You really only need about 10 cents, maybe $1 would probably get you through the entire hackathon. And so if people want to reach out to me on the BCHJS Telegram channel, I can send them 10 cents worth of Bitcoin Cash. That's enough for to send SLP tokens, and just to do general stuff. All those BCHJS examples, they all use a fraction of a penny every time you execute them, and so you don't need much, but you do need some.
And yeah, for those who are looking for just some Bitcoin Cash to get started for development, Bitcoin Bay can also provide small amounts. Again, as Chris mentioned, these transactions cost like 0. 0.1 cent to 0. 0.2 cents, depending on price, I suppose. So it's very, very cheap. So yeah, just reach out for that.
There's also Thor Swap. If people want to Google that, Thor Swap. It uses the Thor chain, and I believe you can exchange, if you have Ethereum, you can exchange Ethereum for Bitcoin Cash using Thor Swap now, and that's permissionless. It should work anywhere in the world. They have an app that you can download and create a wallet. That's a pretty easy way to switch between Ethereum, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash. Uh, yeah.
Hey Chris, thank you for the presentation. Is there no testnet for testing out like Bitcoin Cash development?
It does exist. There is a test net. Most developers on Bitcoin Cash don't use it though, because it's used by miners to test when they're bringing on a new mining setup. They'll usually mine empty blocks on testnet. So and when that happens, you can't, development stops. You can't use testnet during that time period. So that's a frequent thing. It's also just it's a very chaotic place. There's a lot of rules that do not apply in testnet that do apply in mainnet. And that again, that's testnet's primarily for miners and people doing like really experimental things. It's just not a good place for developers. And the transaction fees are so low on mainnet that that's not a barrier to developers. And for testing like really large sums, most developers just use tokens to represent large sums and test that way.
Okay, good. Thanks. And is there any kind of like NFT marketplace which is for Bitcoin Cash by any chance?
Well, there is jungle.net, which I have not, I think it's with two U's. I've not used this very much, but this is. And then I have seen people sell Bitcoin Cash NFTs on OpenSea. It is possible. Again, I've never tried it myself. But jungle.net is apparently an NFT marketplace for BCH NFTs.
Okay, got it. And last question for me. Thank you for answering all of them. In terms of thinking around how Shopify and Bitcoin Cash could work together, especially in terms of SLP. I mean, would it be more like having some kind of badge or token on your wallet, which would kind of help integrate Shopify into the Bitcoin Cash network?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd like to see a lot of collaboration on that, on integrating Shopify and Bitcoin Cash during this hackathon. I'm not personally very familiar with the Shopify API, but definitely using a service like fullstack.cash, it's just a REST API. So any web developer who's used to working with Shopify can tap into our REST API to access the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. So anything that anybody wants to code up should be possible.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey Chris, I had a question.
Yeah.
This might be probably might be a bit of an obvious one, fairly experience in this space. So essentially, we're looking at doing DeFi challenges to build on Ethereum, and in terms of kind of, I guess, our self-directed learning for this, I was just curious how much crossover is there between, say, the foundation behind Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, compared to the foundations behind Ethereum? Because we're just trying to work out kind of where we should be reading and what we should be looking at.
Yeah. Well, there is no foundation behind Bitcoin Cash. It's totally decentralized. So there's no official dev team. There's no official documentation. There's no official anything. It's just free for all. So what you'll find is there will be pockets of people who specialize in certain things. So the Permissionless Software Foundation that I founded, we use Bitcoin Cash, but we also use the Avalanche blockchain and the eCash blockchain, and we're more focused on business applications around privacy and economic activity and circumventing censorship. So that's our focus, and we use blockchain as a tool for that, but we're not like a Bitcoin Cash foundation. And so there's I think 5 or 6 different full node implementations in Bitcoin Cash, and they're all completely independent dev teams. There's the one that the miners run. Most miners run one particular implementation of BCHN, but again, they don't have a foundation, and they don't really take a leadership role in terms of the culture. So that's a very big difference between Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum, that has a central foundation that sort of drives stuff.
Yeah, okay, I think, so maybe I should rephrase that question. When I say foundation, I'm more referring to conceptually how it works. So like, as an example, the Mastering Bitcoin Cash, Mastering Bitcoin nodes provided on GitHub, is the resources there, or will the resources there cross over quite a bit with Ethereum, or should we really only be looking at if we are building on top of Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin?
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of crossover to Ethereum just because the architectures are so different. Ethereum's going to have, it's going to be address based, whereas Bitcoin's UTXO based. So there is the Smart BCH, which is an EVM sidechain to Bitcoin Cash, and so any contract that would run in Ethereum can be brought over there, and so that there is work right now on a bridge for there's a couple bridges I think under development for bridging tokens and assets across Ethereum and Smart BCH, and then there will be a way to bring Bitcoin Cash back and forth, and probably SLP tokens, which is on the main chain for Bitcoin Cash, back and forth. But again, a lot of this isn't planned. You just kind of have to know the people behind it, and ask questions in the Telegram channels. So I'm not sure where to refer you to for any one specific like idea, or even sort of a general approach. You just kind of have to dive in and start asking questions. Bitcoin Cash can be pretty chaotic that way.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you very much. That answers the question perfectly.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Or I don't know, Chris, if you want to just I don't know if you're familiar enough with the Smart BCH in case anyone's interested, just to walk through how that works.
Yeah, I have not used a lot of Smart BCH stuff yet, but what I would recommend is there is a Telegram channel for Smart BCH. Let me see if I can pull that up. Yeah, so let's see. I guess I'll share my screen again. There is a Telegram channel for Smart BCH, so t.me/smartbch_community. If you put that in your browser window, and you have Telegram installed, it'll navigate you to this group, and that's the best place to get started and ask. I guess there's smartbch.org, and they've got a Twitter and Discord channel. there's a whole onboarding process there, where you've got to convert your Bitcoin Cash into SBCH, and I'm really not too familiar with it, but there are public nodes that people can interact with and attach MetaMask to. But you need to be aware that you're on Smart BCH. You're not actually on the Bitcoin Cash layer 1 chain. You're on a side chain. And it is nice because all your EVM contracts you can basically drop them in and they'll run on Smart BCH. Another resource for people who are working with Smart BCH is you can check out. Actually, I guess it would be. If you go to psfoundation.cash, that's the website for the Permissionless Software Foundation, we have these weekly technical meetings, and one of the active members in our technical meeting is Stoyan. You can see him pictured here. But basically, if you go to the YouTube channel for the Permissionless Software Foundation and watch some of the last couple technical meetings, you might want to skip halfway through. Stoyan regularly, for the last 3 meetings, has basically spent the last half of the meeting talking about all the things that he's learned about Smart BCH and the different tools and resources from the Ethereum world that he's brought over to Smart BCH for creating tokens and DAOs and working with all of that. So I kind of live vicariously through him. He seems to be the most cutting edge developer that I'm aware of with Smart BCH and actually using it in a sort of a business sense.